Is the economy really headed for trouble? Every time you get on the YouTube homepage, there's a new video warning about an upcoming economic collapse. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I can relate to the doom and gloomers. The stock market, Bitcoin, and even housing prices right now, they just feel too high. It's not normal. The economy, businesses closing, high prices, low incomes. I can't help but to feel a little pessimistic about where things are headed. I mean, it seems unsustainable, doesn't it? So, while my gut tells me something's off, I also understand that financial abnormalities can go on for longer than we expect. So, let me ask you this. Is the economy really as bad as we think it is? Or is this the media's fear-driven narrative influencing the way we see things? In today's video, we're going to dig into why our perception of the economy might depend on what your political affiliation is and what you choose to listen to in the news. Let's dive in. We're really living in what many like to call a tale of two economies. The reality is the economy isn't the same for everyone. For some, it's smooth sailing, record corporate profits, stock markets booming, and housing prices are way up. On the surface, things look great. If you're an investor or a business owner in certain industries, the economy might feel like a golden age. But here's the flip side. For others, the story looks very different. Working class families, small business owners, and people living paycheck to paycheck aren't seeing the same benefits. Inflation pushed food and goods prices up, and they're staying up. It's hitting hard, and wages aren't keeping pace. For them, it feels like the economy is in a constant state of crisis. While the wealthy are seeing their portfolios grow, many are just trying to survive the rising cost of living. Take a look at what's going on in the housing market, for example. For homeowners who've seen their property values soar, things are looking good. But for first-time buyers, the dream of home ownership feels like it's out of reach. And while the stock market may be booming for some, others are watching their retirement savings get eaten up by inflation and market volatility. So the question is, which economy are we really living in? The one that feels like a boom for the few, or the one that feels like a struggle for the many? The truth is, it's both. But the way you experience it might depend on your income level, your political views, and the media you choose to consume. Now let's be honest for a minute. How we feel about the economy can sometimes have little to do with how the economy is actually doing. It's easy to get caught up in the media storm, hearing all these warnings about the collapse of the economy, the next recession, and the high inflation numbers. I don't blame anyone for feeling stressed or anxious or overwhelmed by it all. But the reality is, emotions can distort the picture. Whether you're a business owner or an employee or anyone trying to navigate your financial life, it's easy to feel like you're in a constant battle with the economy. Maybe it's the stress of rising costs, the uncertainty of job security, or the fear of financial instability. The truth is, we all have our emotional reactions to what we hear and see about the economy. But emotions, as we all know, can cloud judgment. I'll admit I've been there myself. As a business owner, I've definitely felt the weight of economic uncertainty. Sometimes I get that same feeling of stress when I see headlines or hear talk of economic collapse. But here's the thing, when I look at the actual numbers, my cash flow, my bank statements, it tells a very different story. The reality is, I'm doing just fine, even though my emotions tell me to be worried. And this doesn't just apply to business owners. For individuals too, whether you're an employee or someone looking to retire, or just trying to manage your finances, the same emotional triggers are at play. You hear about inflation, layoffs, and economic struggles, and it's easy to feel like everything's about to fall apart. But when you take a step back and look at the actual numbers, things might not be as bad as they seem. As an accountant, part of my job is to help clients deal with those emotions. You'd be surprised how often business owners will call me in a panic about their finances, only for me to look at the numbers and reassure them. Your business is doing great. You just have to manage your cash flow better and focus on the long term. The numbers don't lie, but emotions can cloud judgment. This isn't just about me or just about business owners. It's a common experience for all of us. We all tend to react emotionally to the noise around us, the headlines, the worries, the endless talk of doom and gloom. It creates a sense of anxiety. But in reality, the data often tells a different story. If we let our feelings govern our decisions, we might be missing the truth. So when we talk about the economy, it's important to recognize the emotional side, but we also have to look at the hard facts. Is the economy perfect? Of course not. But when you compare it to the sheer panic we hear about in the media, it may not be as bad as we think. And that's what we need to focus on, staying grounded in the facts and not letting external fears take control of our decisions. Now, let's talk about something that's been a major factor in shaping our economy right now: Trump's proposed tariffs. Whether you support them or not, there's no denying that tariffs have had a polarizing effect on the way people view the economy. For some, tariffs are seen as a necessary protective measure to protect American jobs and industries. For others, they're a disaster that raises costs and muddies international trade. For the people who support the tariffs, these measures are viewed as a defensive strategy, a way to level the playing field between the US and other global players, particularly China. They argue that tariffs protect domestic industries, create jobs, and ensure that America isn't getting taken advantage of in global trade deals. For these people, the tariffs are a sign that the US is standing up for its economic interest and reasserting its global power. On the other side, critics of the tariffs argue that they hurt consumers by raising prices on everyday goods. For them, tariffs are seen as a tax on the American public. Instead of strengthening the economy, they believe tariffs could lead to a trade war, higher prices on imported goods, and long-term economic damage. They view these policies as a short-term win that could have far-reaching negative consequences down the road. So here's the interesting part. Your opinion on the tariffs is likely shaped by who you voted for. If you're on the side of those who support Trump's policies, the tariffs probably feel like a win for America. But if you're not a supporter, they may seem like a reckless move that harms businesses and consumers alike. It's a perfect example of how political affiliation can deeply influence how you perceive economic policies. And this goes beyond just tariffs. It's a reflection of how we tend to see the economy from a subjective, emotional perspective, shaped by our own political beliefs. But here's the reality. Tariffs may have their pros and cons, and like any economic policy, they're a tool to achieve a specific goal. They won't single-handedly destroy the economy, but they also won't necessarily lead to the prosperity that some expect. The key is looking at the facts and considering the long-term implications. Let's face it, talking heads love to talk about economic uncertainty, myself included sometimes. Whether it's looming recessions, inflation, or financial instability, the headlines often focus on the risks and worst-case scenarios. But here's the real question. How much of this media coverage is grounded in actual economic facts, and how much is driven by fear and sensationalism? The truth is, fear sells. The more dramatic the headline, the more people tune in. And while some of this fear may be justified, it's easy to get carried away when the media constantly repeats negative forecasts. I mean, we've been hearing about an inverted yield curve predicting a recession for the past few years, or more recently, the SOM rule predicting a recession. Yet here we are, still pushing through. The market's had its ups and downs, but the so-called hard landing that many predicted has yet to happen. Let's take a step back and look at public opinion. The data shows that people's views on the economy are deeply influenced by their political affiliation and the media they consume. Democrats and Republicans tend to see the economy through completely different lenses. On one side, growth, while the other side sees impending disaster. This divide isn't just about economic conditions, it's about how we perceive those conditions based on the information we consume. Just take a look at this graph. It shows how public opinion on the economy fluctuates based on which party is in power. The same economic reality is interpreted very differently depending on who's leading the country. When your team's in power, everything feels fine. When the other side takes control, the economy is suddenly falling apart. Now, I'm not here to tell you everything's perfect. The economy isn't in great shape. There are real challenges, inflation, rising costs, and everything else. But here's the thing. It may not be as dire as the media makes it seem. The economy has been resilient even in the face of challenges. If we zoom out and look at the long-term trends, we see a much more complex picture than the doom and gloom we're often led to believe. So, what can we take away from all this? Objectivity is key. The media, including social media, will always stir the pot, but it helps to stay grounded in the facts. The economy isn't perfect by any means, but it's also not on the brink of collapse. At least I don't think. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, and the more we can distance ourselves from the emotional reactions to the headlines, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions. At the end of the day, it's easy to get caught up in all the noise and feel like the world is collapsing around you. Trust me, I've been there. But here's the most important thing I want you to take away. Focus on what you can control. The future of the economy, the stock market, or even the impact of Trump's tariffs might be out of our hands, but there's a lot we can do to ensure our own financial stability and success. As business owners, entrepreneurs, or just individuals trying to make sense of the world, we need to stop reacting emotionally to the headlines and start focusing on the facts. The key here is objective thinking. It's about cutting through the noise, whether it's the constant drumbeat of recession talk, the political divide, or the fear-driven media. Your success isn't determined by the media's headlines. It's determined by your actions and your ability to stay grounded and how you adapt to the circumstances. Here are a few practical steps to stay focused on your business and financial health. Review your cash flow regularly to ensure you're staying on top of expenses. Set long-term goals for your business and finances, and don't let short-term fears dictate your decisions. Work with a financial advisor or trusted accountant to gain clarity and make informed decisions. Stay calm and don't panic. Economic downturns, while challenging, often provide opportunities for those who remain level-headed. Yes, the economy is uncertain, but that doesn't mean your future has to be. Stay grounded in facts, not fear, and focus on what you can control. If we stay focused, keep doing the good work, and stay informed, we'll be much more prepared to weather whatever comes next, whether that's economic growth, a recession, or something in between. In the end, the economy is far from perfect, but it's also not as dire as some people might have you believe. The media will keep pushing the fear narrative, but it's up to us to separate fact from fiction. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay connected. If you have thoughts about the economy, Trump's tariffs, or how you're navigating all this, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video.